Go here with David Lau. Okay, so we are back here live at the Ascent conference in sunny San Diego, Orion Ascent, of course. And we're talking about all different types of content relative to going RIA, as we always do. So we have a really great guest with us today, David Lau. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, Chuck, always great to see you.
Likewise.
Actually, good to see you in person.
Yes,
the last
indeed.
couple times we did this, it was over video.
We've had a very good virtual relationship, but it's nice to make it real today.
Yes.
So David Lau, as a lot of you probably know, is the founder and CEO of DPL Financial. And they are really, as I like to say all the time, the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to fee-based annuities.
Yes.
And one thing I really like to stress to the audience, and our audience, as you know, David, is made up of advisors thinking about going RIA. And I talk to these advisors all the time. I know you do as well. And one of their big concerns is, how can I possibly do business without a Series 7? Now,
Yes.
we know there's a lot of solutions for that. And that's what I'd like to talk about. So if you could expand on that for us.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, one of the last things that holds an advisor or a firm to their broker-dealer is insurance and annuities. So, they maybe have a book of business that is kicking off revenue to the firm. Maybe they're dead assets. Maybe they took all the commission up front. There's no trail to it. And when they're thinking about going RIA, that can be a problem. So what are we going to do about that book of business? We don't want to leave those customers behind. We don't want to leave the revenue behind, whatever it might be. And we've got a number of solutions for that that can really help them to that independence model in a way that's going to be much better for them and their clients than staying at the broker-dealer.
I think that's an important point. And the best type of solution is one that's a win for everyone. And this is a win for the advisor, of course. We're talking to advisors, but it's very much a win for the client, too. Oftentimes, better features, better living benefits, lower costs, and from the advisor's perspective, perhaps a renewed revenue stream.
That's right. So many people don't realize just how much the pricing changes when you remove the commission from the annuity. So when you're taking a client from an old commissioned annuity, you can often improve the outcome very dramatically, saving thousands of dollars a year in fees, saving or potentially increasing the payout in terms of the income, sometimes 2-3 times what might have been projected from the commission product. So often advisors get a little worried about, okay, I don't want to have to resell my client on this annuity or the product I talked to them about before. But this is a real opportunity to look like a hero, because this is a new breed of product. You've got that ability to position it that way. These products didn't exist before. It's relatively new to the market that all these products exist, and they are from all the carriers you were probably working with before. The Alliances, the Pac Lives.
Sure.
Etc. And it gives you the opportunity to show your client how much you can improve that product while at the same time turning it into AUM. And you can bill on these products. You can bill out of the products. You can integrate it into your portfolio management system and bill centrally if you like. And we facilitate all of that.
Yep. And I remember we had this conversation. We've done one of these before in the not so distant past. And it was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was at the FPA conference in Connecticut, and you were doing a talk, and we didn't know each other at that time.
Yes.
I was like, wow, finally someone that gets this, because I've always worked as a fee-based advisor. I was like, why can we not strip these commissions out of these annuities, make them better for the client, and make it easy for me to manage that? And that's exactly what you've built.
Yes, exactly. So we start by working with carriers to help not only bring the products to market, but to make sure the carriers can support them in a way that works for the advisor, i.e. the fee billing out of a product. We make sure that can happen. Relative to your question on the Series 7 and licensing, we act as the licensed agent, so the advisor doesn't have to, but the advisor gets added to the policy through a limited power of attorney to be able to manage the assets, to pull their fees, very much in the way a custodial account works. With Schwab or Fidelity or whomever you're custodying with.
Exactly. And I think that takes a big concern off the plate of these advisors looking to go RIA. Because to your point, some advisors might have 10, 20, 30% in legacy annuities.
That's right.
And they want to bring that AUM, and they also don't want to abandon that client at that old firm, because who knows what's going to happen there. Right. Will they get serviced properly? They want to keep it all within their ecosystem. So I think that's hugely important. Now, the other thing too that I found really interesting, and I think this is a newer program for you. When we've
Yes.
talked about this, and I believe one of our advisors at Sovereign is actually using it right now. Sometimes you will have an old legacy annuity that has a fantastic living benefit that just can't be matched right now, or it's
Right.
been going on for a long time. So they don't have really a good reason to switch it to a fee-based annuity. It's probably good
Yep.
where it is, but they still don't want to leave it at their former broker dealer.
That's
I
right.
know about the solution, but please tell the audience because I think it's a great one.
That's right. So, as you're saying, for most of the products that might be in that advisor's book, we can probably exchange them into a better product. But for ones that we can't, whether there's a built-in benefit that you don't want to lose, or the product's still in surrender, might have a heavy surrender penalty, what we can do there is take those policies and change the advisor of record. So at DPL, we will become the advisor of record. We can move the policies to our broker dealer and then hire the advisor back to manage the assets. So again, it's a win-win for the client and the advisor because the advisor is now getting paid to manage the assets. They continue the client relationship. And for the client, they're getting their same advisor. The advisor's getting paid to manage the asset. Again, a win-win, even when you can't make that exchange. So the big advantage, like you said, we just launched that program last year, and it's been a smashing success. Is now for the advisor, they can take the whole book. It's not just the ones that can be exchanged. You can make that clean break, bring the whole book, and then for the ones we switch to advisor of record, we can monitor those on an ongoing basis. And we've got technology that does that, that looks at those exchanges and comparisons. And when it makes sense for the client, we can bring it to the advisor's attention and say, hey, now this product can be improved. And maybe let's look at a 1035 exchange.
Absolutely. And again, worth re-highlighting is the fact all this is done without a Series 7.
That's correct.
And that's the beautiful part of it, I think.
Right. I mean, that's one of the many reasons people like going RIA. You can drop that, license. You don't have the FINRA oversight anymore. Now you've got a lot more freedom in order to execute your business in the way you want to.
Absolutely. And that's really the calling card of the RIA space is freedom.
Yes.
Right. And not to say that compliance in the RIA space is the Wild West, but it's reasonable.
Yes.
Right. And I had the real pleasure of doing a podcast with Michael Kitsis. And I told him I was going to keep using this because I thought it was brilliant. Compliance at some of these larger firms where you have 10, 15,000 advisors is designed for the lowest common denominator.
That's right.
So if you have to keep 10,000 advisors compliant, everything is no. And the guardrails are super narrow.
Yes.
But if you launch your own RIA, you set your own compliance. It's not to say that you go crazy,
right?
But if you think it's reasonable and it's compliant, then you do it. And to be able to do all of this without the Series 7 is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's terrific. And that we can enable that on the insurance side. The rest of the business, you can look for a firm like Sovereign to help help firms get into the RIA world and get set up in all the different regards. So there are so many solutions to going RIA. If you're thinking about going RIA, you just have to ask the questions because there's an answer.
Yeah. Speaking of that, that's teaming me up for a little promo I may just take advantage of. And on June 13th, we're going to have the first ever Go RIA virtual masterclass. It's going to be a half day of all things you want to know about going RIA. We're going to talk about compliance, fee-based solutions, and really everything you would want to know about going RIA. So if you like these little snippets, June 13th, the registration is not open yet, but it will be soon. June 13th, if you want to save the date, it will be a half-day virtual event, so you can tune in from anywhere. And it's going to be a real masterclass format with a lot of granular advice on how to go RIA. So a little hashtag self-promotion there, but that's going to be a great event. Something I wish I had when I went RIA 5 years ago. I had to figure it out the hard way.
Yeah, and there are so many resources to support people. When I've been in the RIA space almost 20 years now. Yeah. And for people thinking about getting into the RIA space, there were very limited resources back then. Now, as I was saying earlier, whatever you're thinking about doing, there are answers for it. And there are people who can help you and help guide you and set up your firm in the way you want it set up.
All right. That's probably a good place to end it. But one thing I always like to ask before we really wrap it up, because we're at a conference, and I always like to see if there's any new news. I think you have some new news to report.
Yeah, we're here at the Orion Ascent conference, and for us, this is we've just expanded our partnership with Orion, so that DPL, our tools and our data and the products are all deeply integrated into the Orion system, single sign-on between the firms, and a lot of joint marketing and sales efforts to help advisors get to be able to use these products and help them go RIA. And what advisors will often find out now as they look to RIA is your solutions, not only from the product side, but from the tech side, are probably going to be way better than you've been experiencing at your broker dealer or wirehouse.
Oh, without question. I know we have to wrap it up, but we could do a whole podcast on that. People saying, oh, if I leave my broker dealer, what's the technology going to look like? Short answer is a lot better.
Yes.
A lot better.
And a lot more integrated, more and more integrated.
Yes.
Everything gets to be seamless, and you're going to have the solutions you're looking for.
Okay. Let's end on that note. David Lau from DPL Financial, thanks a lot for joining us.
Awesome, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Always great to see you.
Great to see you. All right. So we're going to still be here for the rest of the day. We have 3 or 4 more guests coming up. So stay tuned. I'll be back on in about an hour. Thanks for joining us. Take care.